remains as the challenge for filmmakers and content providers is getting people to say, now, go there. What are the implications for Islamic communities in the U.S., Arabic communities in the U.S., for using those techniques to get their message out?
3 lessons, 3 things. Organize, organize, and organize. This is a tool, and again, this is the greatness of the internet. It's a tool that can reach specific communities. Whether it's an Arabic community or it's nuns who drive on motorcycles, you can find specific communities. And it is malpractice today if all communities that have political and social agendas are not using this tool. It's truly malpractice. It's there, again, the distribution part of it is free, the content is not. And you can find an audience. So whether it's through religious communities, through social gatherings, through family gatherings, when we started sending our videos, you know, we started with a small number of people, like-minded folks, and our email list now is about 600,000 people. We'll probably get it close to 1 million at some point. Now, it's a lot of hard work. It doesn't happen by magic, but we can find people. You can reach people. There are ways to do this. And you know, the irony is, at least for me, that when I first, I don't know everyone's level of skill here, but I remember so clearly with email, when I learned how to hit reply all, I thought I was like a genius, you know, cutting edge.
I'm so sick of the brainwashing about Islam and Muslims and the Quran. Shove it! Shove it all! I'm sick of it! Take the music off. These throwbacks think they're better than you underneath it all, and 90% of them are on welfare. Speak it out at the supermarket. Tell them what you think of Islam. Tell them what you think of Muslims. Say it on the supermarket line. And don't care what stares you get from those dumb idiots who are checking out behind you with their Cracker Jacks. I can see what it says in their book of hate. Make no mistake about it, the Quran is not a document of freedom. The Quran is a document of slavery and chattel. It teaches you that you are a slave. Don't tell me I need re-education. They need deportation. You can take CAIR and throw them out of my country. I don't want to hear any more about Islam. I don't want to hear one more word about Islam. Take your religion and shove it up your behind. I'm sick of you.
On the radio do have advertisers, and advertisers do not want to see this and be associated with it. They don't want it, right? So there's a vulnerable spot there. But it's an example of the necessity for organizing, the necessity for collaboration, and the absolute necessity for yelling as loud as possible and not letting this stuff go unnoticed. Fair use is a law which allows you to use material of another party if there's no other way to tell the story. So all of our Fox work, and if you go to the website, you'll see 8 or 9 different Fox videos. We use all of Fox's material. We're covered under fair use because that's the only way to tell the story. A lot of people come and volunteer, and it was nice because we never have enough money, but all the volunteers were young men and young women, white, of parents who were in the film industry and making a lot of money. And I said, we can't do this. We can't talk the talk and not walk the walk. So we have started, I was talking before, we have started a training fellowship program, which is specifically designed to be outreach to all communities, Arabic, African American, Latino, communities of color primarily, which don't have rich mothers and fathers working in the film industry to be able to get them these jobs, and we raised some money so that we can help train these folks and work with us for a year. And not to get jobs in Hollywood, by the way, because the great thing about the new media and politics, there are opportunities there. If you can learn this, we call it a one-man band, where essentially the technology is such that you can film, you can edit, and you can post it on YouTube. You can learn that skill set. There are increasingly numbers of jobs in unions, political candidates, etc., etc. So that's one of the ways that we're trying to change the situation.
That really struck me just this last year when there was a study by the Pew Center. It was the Pew Center on, let me get the name right for you here. The Pew Research Center for People and the Press, and the Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life. And they had a very interesting study that came out. And I'll just read you the lead of this. This was last September. Most Americans say they know little to nothing about the practices of Islam and Mormonism, but they say their own religious beliefs have little in common with either of these faiths. Okay, that kind of backs up what you were saying. Okay, so I love that. They don't know anything about it, but it's not us, you know. There's a lot of confusion. In fact, one thing I've learned on the religion beat is a lot of people really don't know what's in their own holy books. You know. Yeah, when I told this one man who was calling to complain about something, and I said, well, you know, it does say, I couldn't remember if it was Leviticus or Deuteronomy, you know, that it calls for the stoning of unruly children. Which is a scripture I can get behind, I'll tell you. But people don't really understand it. So we don't do a good enough job of explaining, of giving background. And I think that's why you have those kinds of perceptions. Now the difficulty with this, I think just from a storytelling perspective, is you don't want your story to sound like a Wikipedia entry, you know. So how do you blend that in there? I think there are different ways. I think let's take the example of Mormonism this last year. We saw a lot of Q&As that got published in magazines and newspapers. I know our paper did that. A lot of Q&As. What are the basics of Mormonism? What does the faith really preach? What do they believe? And we saw that because of Mitt Romney. Remember him? Mitt Romney, by the way, when he was running for president. But the difficulty with explaining is religious concepts are very difficult sometimes. And what do you do if your editor on deadline, for all the writers, news writers in the room, what do you do if your editor comes to you on deadline and says, hey, can you add one sentence to that explaining the difference between Shia and Sunni? One sentence. Or one sentence on explain the difference between Southern Baptists and Evangelical Lutherans. Oh, got it. You know, no problem. I mean, how do you do that? Attach it to narrative. I mean, we are storytellers after all. And I'll give you an example. Last year, the Times did a 3-part series on the Hajj, on the annual pilgrimage to Mecca, and we sent Ashraf Khalil, a staff writer, and photographer Irfan Khan to Saudi Arabia. And we were very fortunate that we got permission from the Saudi government to do this, and they made it a narrative. They followed some Muslims from Southern California. Actually, Mary helped us find folks who would be willing to chat with us, and we followed them. We went to Hajj class in Costa Mesa as they were preparing for their journey. And one thing I loved about Hajj class, by the way, this was a great reminder of the commonalities of faiths. It never occurred to me that you would have to go to Hajj class. But, you know, but it makes sense. I mean, kids practice for their bar mitzvah. You know, they work on the Hebrew and everything. You have Catholics who prepare for they go to confirmation class. So why not learn? Of course, you need to learn about the rituals, the symbolism, the faith, and also just the logistics of it all. So we followed them from Costa Mesa to Medina to Mecca. Okay, and the goal there was to say, what is this experience that brings close to 3 million people to the Saudi desert? What is this experience really like? Because usually when you see coverage about the Hajj, it's one feature photo, just showing a lot of people in white on the desert plain, or, unfortunately, it's a news story about a tragedy. As you know, there have been some stampedes in recent years, and about 10 years ago there was that horrible fire in a tent city. But this tried to capture what was this experience really like. And I think they achieved a certain depth that you don't often see. So, on the explaining issue, we explained the ritual, we explained a lot of the traditions, a lot of just the fundamentals of what the Hajj is about. But it didn't feel like a Wikipedia entry because, again, the power of narrative is what made it work.